is running the crew out here. We've got 19 trees up and down this street. Some of them as high as about 37, 38 feet. A bunch of crepe myrtles. Mike has been learning a ton on this job, so he's gonna walk us through some of the stuff that he's learned. So first off, this is a crepe myrtle. Mike, talk us through what all you learned on this crepe myrtle and how you went ahead making this amazing pattern here.
So definitely learned that they eat up a ton of minis. You gotta plan ahead, know what you're doing before you give a customer a budget of what they want done to their tree, because it'll eat up a lot of these strands. If you can kind of look into the branches, these crepe myrtles, they Y off almost every couple of feet and just over and over again, just keep on splitting. So you definitely kind of have to know what you're doing when you're wrapping each branch. We double space everything every time we come to a split. That way when we come back and return to this split, we come back in between the spacing that we did double to make it look like single spacing, and then return back to the split and do the other side. So that's what makes everything look pretty even. But again, they eat up strands like crazy, and you gotta kind of have to look at it like a puzzle. Look ahead, make sure you know what you're gonna do, if you're gonna come all the way back down after you branch off, and when and where are you gonna double space versus single space.
Do you do anything about getting electricity to the top? Are you running any wires up the middle?
On some, yes. Again, you kind of take it tree by tree, depending on how big the tree is, where it all branches off at. This crepe myrtle, there's 3 separate trunks that we started at. So we have our blank cord down here with our inline females. And so there's probably 3 different runs of minis going this side, the main trunk, and then this left side.
How many total strands do you think are in this one?
I would probably say between 30 and 40. It's been hard because this job we did take over from another customer, or another company, sorry, and we did use their lights. So we're kind of learning as we go. And plus they've grown. They've grown since the other company installed last year. So we're still learning as we go. We plan to count them at takedown this year. That way we'll have a better idea of how many we use for the whole job. But this year we just went ahead and took what the last company did.
What happens if you get to the end and you still have, I don't know, 15 feet left of a strand? What do you do with
Right,
it?
so for example here on this branch that came off the trunk, we did double spacing because we knew we were gonna come back to go to the next branch. And as we came back, we got to a certain point where we needed to add a new strand, but we didn't need necessarily all 24 feet of the strand. So we had slack and we needed to put it, kind of fill in the space. That's what we did here. It doesn't show as much during the day, but at night, you can kind of tell where there's kind of some naked spots of the light. So we'll put them specifically in those areas, especially when you have leftover strand like this, and run it down as quickly back as we can to the trunk. So you try to hide it as strategically as possible. Sometimes it's actually good to have that because depending what spacing the minis you're using, whether it's 4-inch or 6-inch, these are all 6-inch. When you're wrapping a branch, sometimes it's just the perfect size and all your lights will line up in a row and it'll make certain sides of the branch look really naked, not very lit at all. So when we have this extra strand, that's when it really comes in handy to kind of fill in those sides.
So we've come over here to the tallest tree. It's somewhere between, we think like 37 to 40 feet. It's an oak tree. And Mike, tell us what you learned from a tall tree like this that's gonna use 80 to 100 strands of lights.
So when we were using the lift, we found out pretty quickly that we needed to wrap the center of the tree, including the trunk, and as much of the branches as possible that we could reach safely, whether it's from the tree itself or from a ladder. The reason for that is on the lift, the style of lift we were using, it has a big 5-foot, 6-foot basket, so it's really tough to get close to the tree and maneuver through the branches. So as long as you can safely wrap as many of the branches close to the trunk as possible, the trunk itself, it's a lot easier to maneuver the lift when you're up that high in between the branches and finish out each branch. Unlike the crepe myrtle, we did run blank cord pretty high. And the reason why we do that is after so many strands, I'm personally not exactly sure how many, I want to say probably about 20 back-to-back strands, you don't get sufficient enough power for them to light. So basically what we do is at every branch that was a substantial size branch that we knew was going to take more than one mini, we put a female in line on this blank cord and started a new run of minis from that plug. And we did that all the way up the tree at every large enough branch that we knew would take more than just one strand. If it took less than one strand or even just one, we didn't do that because we knew we were going to come back and start a new branch.
All right, Mike, I got a couple more questions for you. So on average, how long do you think it takes to do one of these 35-foot trees with the 80 to 100 strands? Like how many hours are you putting in on one tree?
I would say now that we've experienced it and we kind of know a little bit more tips and tricks to get us through it faster, we could probably finish out a large tree, 2 guys, 7 to 8 hours each guy. So you're looking at what, 15, 16 hours of labor to finish out a tree like this.
Okay, so we've got 19 trees here. We're planning on putting about 1,000 strands total. What do you estimate the full time it is to do the 19 trees with 1,000 strands?
The crepe myrtles, as small as they are, again, with how they branch off over and over and over again, they do take some time. It's pretty tedious, and you do want to make them look right. You don't want to just spiderweb stuff up there and just make it look, not very good. So they do take a while. I would say the size crepe myrtles we have on this job, again, now that we kind of have a better idea of how to start it, where to start it, it would probably take about 2 guys, 6 hours a tree. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 8 crepe myrtles. So you're looking at about 48, 50 hours there. And we got 3 big oak trees where another 16 hours. That's 32, 48.
Based on our estimations, it's going to end up taking us about 260 hours to do the 19 trees. So if you decide to take on a big tree job, especially if you're new, overbid the thing, because if you get it, this is going to take up so much time that you're going to be missing out on a lot of homeowners jobs as well.